Recording in progress.
I'm going to unmute this and I'll do the speaker thing on my side here.
I'll make you
Oh, I can't do that. I'll have to do it.
co-host.
Advanced things, where are they? There we go. You can hear us, so we're all set.
Okay. All right, great. It is 6:01. Welcome, everybody. This is a meeting of the Shutesbury Selectboard. Today is July 16th, 2024, and this is a hybrid meeting with the three Select Board members and Tom Seifert and our Town Administrator, Becky Torres, here at Town Hall. So, as always, I am going to open the meeting, review the agenda, and then we'll go right into the meeting itself. So the first item on the agenda is public comment. After that, we actually have 3 sets of select board minutes to review. At 6:15, we will review the draft review committee for watercraft and persons, is that what we call it? And safety review, Lake Royale Boating and Safety Review Committee. Then we have personnel action forms to review, an open meeting, complaint, response, and then town administrator updates. So this is going to be
We don't have the PAS for tonight.
Oh, we don't? Okay. So we will not have the PAFs, the personnel action forms. So this is a somewhat abbreviated meeting. We met last week. We typically meet bi-weekly. We're just trying to get back onto our regular schedule since we didn't meet the week of July 4th. So brief meeting. At the end of this meeting, the Finance Committee might be joining us, and they have a 6:30 meeting and are using the same Zoom login. So if you see a bunch of people showing up at around 6:30, that's who they are. And if we have a moment when they join us, the one thing I did want to do is have AJ and I give a quick update on a discussion that we had with some folks from the Amherst Town Council regarding the regional school budget. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open it up for public comment. I ask that you use the raised hand feature, which is at the bottom of your screen, to keep your comments relatively brief. And if it's something on the agenda and we have time, we'll take comments from the public at that time. Okay, so do we have any public comments? All right, I don't see any.
This is Charlene Galinsky. I can't find a little hand, so I had this problem. I had this problem the other night on the task force meeting, so can I interrupt?
Sure, go ahead, Charlene.
We live at Lake Wyola. We've been here over 30 years, and I noticed on the agenda a review of watercraft, and it says persons committee charge, but you seem to rename it something else, safety something.
Yeah, the Lake Royale Boating and Safety Review Committee.
Okay, can you let me know and anybody else who's listening what started this? What is the reason this became a charge for the select board?
Okay, we will address that when we get to that item on the agenda. So this is public comment period, but I will go through.
Oh, okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other comments? All right. Seeing none, we will go ahead then and review the select board minutes from, we have some from fairly old minutes. An interested citizen pointed out to us that there are a number of sets of minutes that were missing from, that hadn't been posted. So we're sort of doing some catch up, and that's why we're reviewing minutes tonight from October 11th of 2022, and then some 2 sets of minutes from April, but we do have a number. I think a lot of the other minutes probably were approved, but not posted.
Correct, May and June I think we still are owed one for June.
Okay.
And they need to get posted.
But then going back on sort of the list
Well, I've taken care of the two, the October 11th approves the September 27th.
Oh, okay.
So in fact, when you approve the October 11th, both sets of minutes become real.
I see. Okay.
So-
All right, great. So those were sent to the select board, and I assume everybody had a chance to review, and thank you for setting up the new folder. So we have Melissa very generously set up a folder, so we put all of our documents in there, which is great, not trying to go through emails. All right, so do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of October 11th, 2022? So moved.
Second.
Any corrections, edits to those minutes? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Okay, then we have minutes from April 10th, 2024. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. And do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of April 23rd, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, comments, edits?
Nope.
No?
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Farrell, aye. Okay, so now we will get to what you asked about, Charlene, and what I assume a number of people are here about this evening. So just a recap from our meeting last week. So a number of folks from town came to, and there was actually a proposal put forth by Jennifer Wallace to the select board to address safety issues down at Lake Wyola and to take a look at our existing bylaw. We had a discussion at the last select board meeting, and this really was, the genesis of it was that I think the recent accident that happened at Lake Wyola kind of really brought home to a lot of people things that they had been concerned about for a while. Do you think you could move this one? Thank you. It's easier for me to kind of see. Thank you. We're concerned about just the increased usage of the lake, the number of boats, more powerful boats on the lake, that we have a lot more paddle boarders, we have more kayakers, that there's just been a lot more usage and concern about what has been going on down at the lake in terms of safety. So just for everybody's, just to review, we do have a bylaw which discusses everything from speed limits to time of day when you can water ski to prohibiting, I don't know, water personal watercraft, those sorts of things. So it's a bylaw that's been on the books for quite a while, but really hasn't been updated. And I think, we as a committee are interested in taking a look at that bylaw and then also taking a look at enforcement issues and education. So what we discussed at the last meeting was that there was interest in us appointing a committee of individuals who both live at the lake or just use the lake, and have them, what we put together was a work plan for that committee, and that's what we're discussing tonight. And maybe, do you mind, can you put it up, Melissa? So I'm not going to read through the whole document, and I'd like to do this first before we take questions, unless there's something that I need to address immediately.
Goes up first. Zoom.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I can be really brief and then you can move on. But I did just want to point out that there was a really big thunderstorm last we met. And so there were a lot of people that didn't have a chance to weigh in or comment at all in the meeting. And I don't know that if that's a possibility we can have that opportunity or if that impacts this at all. But there was not really comment from anyone around the lake because of that storm. It cut everyone off.
Okay, unfortunately, we have a somewhat abbreviated meeting this evening. So I think,
You can ask people to email their comments.
yeah, if you want to, if we have time, I'll take a couple of questions. I think we covered a lot last week. We heard from a lot of folks, and I'm hoping that this draft charge for a committee kind of covers the concerns. So why don't we start out calling it the Lake Wyola Boating and Safety Review Committee. And basically what, as I already summarized, we wanted to identify specific actions that can be taken by the town, working with Lake Wyola Association, private citizens, the Mass Department of Conservation and Recreation to address safety issues at Lake Wyola. So I've already kind of gone through the background, that we've had this bylaw in the books. We have a lot more usage at the lake, and I think concerns by a lot of people who live at the lake or use the lake about speed and so forth. So what our recommendation was to appoint this committee to do the following things. To review the current bylaw and recommend changes to the bylaw to account for current usage patterns on the lake, to review how the bylaw is enforced and make recommendations to the select board regarding any needed changes, to identify ways to educate the public about the bylaw, including but not limited to signage, Lake Wyola Association communications, and the town website, and there might be more ways to do education, and then to make final recommendations to the Shutesbury Selectboard. What we're planning is to have, not at this meeting, but to put out a communication to the community that we're looking for people to volunteer for this review committee, and then the select board would review the interest and make appointments at, you think, at our next meeting, which will be in 2 weeks. So I anticipate that there'll be a lot more people who want to serve on this. What I recommended was no more than 7 people, and that we have a representative from the fire department and the police department, both of our public safety. And we had a meeting of the emergency management team last week?
Yep.
Last week, where we discussed this, and both the fire chief and the police chief are very interested in maybe not participating in every meeting, but serving as a resource to this committee, because they both have a relationship with what goes on at
Pretty
the
close
lake,
one.
responsibility.
Yeah.
So what we would do, as I said, we would ask for, we'll put out a notice, and if you're interested, just submit your name, maybe just a couple of sentences about, why you're interested in serving on the committee. And what I think makes sense is to try to complete the work within 8 months. And we set the 8-month period to kind of coincide when we're doing the warrant for annual town meeting. So we have annual town meeting in April. We typically get the warrants done in March, and we like to have as much lead time before town meeting, again, because we might want to have some public meetings. And I would say for this committee that maybe there is some sort of, not a formal public hearing, but some sort of public meeting where folks can give their input. So I mentioned the memberships, just representatives from community organizations, Shutesbury residents, people who enjoy the lake but don't necessarily live on the lake, and then somebody from the police and fire departments. There's no budget. This shouldn't, we hope, to cost anything, although there might be some costs associated with the recommendations, and that we ask that I called it the task force, that the review committee, let's change that to review committee, provide updates to the select board on a quarterly basis. So at the 3-month period, the 6-month period, and then at the end of the 8-month period to come forth with recommendations. So the process this evening would be for the select board to approve this kind of scope of work, committee charge, and then, as I said, we would solicit interest from the community. So questions, comments?
Thank you for writing it.
It sounds good, thank you very much.
Yeah.
No.
Well, really, I mean, helped that meeting last week.
Yeah.
Everybody
Oh, yeah.
contributed, and I hope that this reflects what we talked about last week. So I'm just going to do a quick time check. We have time to take a few comments if people want to have comments about
I'll
the
return it back. I'll stop sharing.
yeah.
There. I see that.
Tracy?
Hi, yes, thank you, Rita. This looks great. Sorry, it's a little dark in the room I'm in here, I guess. The only suggestion that I would make in regards to the membership is that, you have a DCR rep, perhaps an environmental police officer rep, or at least somebody a police officer from the environmental police that they could consult with, because they are, overall, they're actually in charge of the safety at the lake, although they just don't have enough people to be here regularly. And they probably would have some good input as to what, what I'm sure that they would have some input on horsepower and, different safety things that maybe the police could implement. I did have an environmental police officer actually tell me that they could even train our police. So that's kind of cool.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. I think we can put them down, the environmental police. So is it the Massachusetts
EPO.
State Environmental Police? Is that the proper?
MAEPO, yeah. Massachusetts Environmental? Oh, no, State Police,
Is it-
MPS.
Okay.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, so we will add them as a resource. Maybe again, not an official committee member, but ask that they be available to the committee.
The only other thing that I was going to say is that in your questioning of people who volunteer to be members, I think it would be a good idea to try to get like a 50-50 split of people who are speedboat owners and people who are not.
And we're really looking for people who don't live on the lake too, but who use it. So, so we're gonna have to do a balancing act. But thank you for your comments, Tracy.
Thank you.
Megan?
Thank you. Just with respect to who you're choosing, I mean, how is that ever going to be fair? And my other question, are non-residents able to participate?
Are non-residents, so you're
I
talking
own
about.
property there, but I'm not a permanent resident. I cannot vote in Shutesbury. I would like to participate.
Sure, you know, I think people who own property, who are taxpayers in Shutesbury, yes. You don't have to be a registered voter.
And how will this be made public? Because I found out about this through a back channel. And the document which was proposed, how is this going to be made public?
Well, the way that, I don't know if you're on our town announce. I mean, we will be sending something out on town announce. If you are not part of town announce.
We'll also post it on the website.
We'll post it on the
homepage.
town website, and I don't know if somebody's here from the Lake Wyola Association. If somebody from the association can also, if you have a mailing list, to put it out there. I don't think it's a problem if people get it from more than one source.
Okay. That's
you know,
helpful.
if you're not part of town announce, I would say everybody here should be registered for town announce. It's really easy to do, and it's our way of getting information out to the public. And as far as the results of the you know, of the committee, that will be we'll make sure that there's again something put up on the town website. There are always, the meetings are always posted. Our agendas for select board meetings are always posted. If you go to the is it the meetings tab?
All right, well, I'll solve that problem. And my final question, has it been determined that a bylaw was violated?
I cannot answer that. I don't know. I mean,
that's a crucial part of this analysis.
Well, it's not part of this analysis. We're not visiting the accident that happened.
But is there evidence of violations of the bylaw?
We are not part of the investigation.
We're not part of the investigation. That's
I'm
a police.
not saying, sorry, outside of the accident, is there a record of violations of this bylaw? Or is this a response from one person? And that we're
No, it's not
revising a bylaw because of one complaint?
Yeah, no, you know, there were a number of people who spoke about issues down at the lake, and violations are not always reported. There are a lot of people who are not even aware of what the, you know, what the bylaw says. So.
Do we even have one?
We have a bylaw,
No,
yes.
I know, they didn't.
No,
didn't know
that we
did,
even
yeah.
have a bylaw. You know, we hear from the.
Communicated on a regular basis by the association, and it's posted at the boat launch, I believe.
Right, but there are a lot of people who don't go necessarily to the boat launch. I think there's got to be a wider, but you know, the police chief was at the emergency management team meeting, the fire chief was there. They have serious concerns, and the police chief was reporting to us a number of problems. They don't want to come down hard on people if people don't understand, but what our police chief typically does is educate people about what the rules are when she sees a problem there. So
I just think that enforcement might be a great first step here rather than recreating the wheel, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, we're not recreating any wheels, we're visiting the wheels we have. Jennifer?
So my name was mentioned in connection with the outreach to the select board. I wrote an email, and it was an email that was composed with 4 or 5 other people around the lake. It wasn't a complaint. It was at all. In fact, it didn't touch anything about any violations. What it said was that, in my observation, over the last 10 years since the bylaw was reviewed, there had been a number of changes at the lake, and including swimmers, including paddlers. You know, it wasn't like an anti-motorboat observation by any means. And I thought, you know, best practices wise, if every 10 years the bylaw just gets a look, and it may be that nothing changes, you know, it may be that something changes. It may be all changes everybody loves. I don't even know, because that's the committee's work. So I just want to, you know, because my name was mentioned, I feel a little bit like, whoa, you know, I'm the bad guy here. So I just want to clarify that I didn't complain about anything. I suggested that the select board consider that it might be best practices to review a bylaw that hadn't been looked at for 10 years. Thank you.
And
And that a committee would do that, a committee of people.
right, and that's agreed, Jennifer. I didn't mean to mischaracterize what the inquiry that you made. But what I would say is that, again, at our emergency management team meeting with the police chief and the fire chief, there were serious concerns raised. So it's not, you know, it's time, and we feel it's, you know, it's the responsible thing for the select board to do, to look at whether that bylaw needs to be updated, and what the, you know, what the emergency protocols are, public safety, and whether or not that needs to be, you know, more of an education campaign. So I'm just going to take one more comment, and then I would encourage anybody who has other comments to submit them to the select board in writing. Anybody else? Okay.
Hi
If
there.
no, oh,
I didn't have a hand coming up on my thing to get in.
Can you just say your name, please?
My name is Paul Lemoyne. I'm from South Hadley. Use the lake frequently.
Where screen's not showing.
My question would be the number of people on the committee. You 7-person committee, but you're already down to 5. Because your police chief and your fire chief are automatic.
No, they were like, yeah, it's a 7-person committee, and then the police and fire are in addition to that.
Okay.
To that, yeah.
Ask about the process. Who's gonna get sorry?
I saw there was one more. Charlene, did you have a comment?
I did. We have I'm on the Lake Wyola Association, and we actually have a safety person that does a very, very good job. And I think a lot of us who are on the association who are hearing, at least I know I am hearing for the first time, that there have been complaints by the people that you mentioned earlier. It would be extremely helpful if there could be a nice coordination between the town that receives these complaints and the Lake Wyola Association. We have a wonderful communication process in a lot of different ways, and we could help encourage better safety. And I'll give you an example what happened to me just yesterday. There was a swimmer, a woman, very young, and not young, probably in her 30s, who was, in my estimation, too far away from the shoreline, and she happened to be in front of our area. I went to the end of my dock and I spoke to her, and she was a little bit rude in what she said to me, but I said to her, the rules are that you need to have a buoy or a boat following you if you're swimming, and she had neither. So some of the problem is that some of these people who are coming in maybe from another place and are not reading the rules or stopping to read it have to be more informed. I literally stood out on the dock for 15 minutes to make sure she came in further and was safe and away. And there was there was one boat with some tubers going around. I watched for more than just those few minutes. So I think part of the problem for us as a community on the lake, so many of us are vigilant about following the rules. And when you get someone who doesn't, it now has created a bigger issue for the larger community that is, does not want that because they made a poor decision. And I hope, whatever happens with this particular group, it's for the betterment of the Lake Wyola community. We pay a lot of taxes here in Shutesbury, as you all well know. And one of the reasons I know we bought up here, we've been lifelong boaters, and we want everybody. I know I can see you're anxious to be done, but my point is, if we could get information from the town alerting us, we could do our best to enforce it. We haven't received that information. Thank you.
Yeah. So as I said, the police chief and the fire chief will both be resources to the committee, and I think they will hear that. We will communicate that to them, what you shared with us tonight, Charlene. And I think, again, what we stated last week was that the lake is a tremendous resource in this community, and we want to see it continue to be a viable, fun place for people to go. So we're just trying to, again, revisit what the rules are and how we communicate them, and that's
a little bit, but I'm listening.
So I would ask people to mute yourself if you. We have one, Clint. You're not muted. Okay, I apologize. Unless there's a comment from either of you guys have anything to add? Yeah? You
No,
good?
I'm all set.
Okay. All right. So with the couple of changes, adding the environmental police, we have 7 individuals, and the police and fire department serving as ad hoc along with the environmental police. Made those changes and called it the review committee instead of, I think, a task force down there. So do I hear a motion to approve the amended charge for the Lake Wyola Boating and Safety Review Committee?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Nope.
The other thing I might add, it just occurs to me, we might want to ask the Lake Wyola Association, that person who's the safety person, to apply to join the committee.
I think they probably heard that
Yeah.
tonight.
Did you do the roll call vote?
We haven't yet.
Okay.
Okay.
I didn't want you to forget.
I was getting there. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker,
Farrell, aye. All right, thanks. Thanks, everybody, and sorry for those folks who were not here last week, but again, you still have an opportunity. This is not set in stone. If we get some comments, we can always revisit this charge, and I hope we can get it done and get the committee launched. And again, if you're interested, we will put out a notice and look to make appointments if everything works out at our next meeting in 2 weeks, which is July 30th. So Tuesday, July 30th at 6 o'clock, you can check the agenda. Okay, so we do not have the personnel action forms. We have an open meeting law complaint response, which has been drafted by our town administrator. The open meeting law complaint was similar to complaints that we have received previously about the agenda not stating the names of individuals to be appointed or reappointed to town boards and committees. We have had previous communication from the Attorney General's office that this is not required, so we do not believe that it is a violation, and therefore have responded. A letter has been drafted and circulated to the select board to go out
Put
to.
it up if you want.
Yeah,
I did make a couple of formatting, although I think so did you, Becky. I did make a couple of formatting things.
Okay.
The quote should be indented with quotes around it. This right here.
Whatever you would like.
Yeah, so I can forward it to you. I think that was the only one. Yeah, that was the only one that I had made. She
Okay.
put it on the letterhead, so that's
Oh,
what I added
okay.
too.
All right.
This should say select board, not town administrator.
I will correct that.
Actually, the one I'll send you with that quote, it has it
Yeah.
in it.
So with those edits of saying select board
So yeah,
and
the
not
top
town
has, she has it on this,
administrator?
yeah.
Okay,
And then the indenting the quote from the agenda
okay,
with quotes.
okay. Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve the draft response, or the response with those edits?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Stalker,
Farrell, aye. Okay, the last thing we have, and I know the Finance Committee has joined us.
I just want to make sure it downloads okay first.
Becky, do you have any updates?
I just want the select board to know that the auditors were here all last week. They're continuing out of a town hall this week. They could have come and enjoyed the zoo this morning, but they decided not to. They worked in their own location. Outside of that, things are a little bit quiet as we have a lot of people on vacation. Well, we have people out of the office for a conference, for vacation, and we're down 2 people at this point. So we are keeping town hall open irregardless.
Okay. I know, is AJ here? Yes, he is here. So, we don't have on our agenda, but since we're doing this, like, just quick overlap, I'm not gonna ask the Finance Committee to call yourself to order, until we, adjourn our meeting. But AJ, since you're here, I thought, just briefly, report back to the select board, and then AJ, if you have anything to add that, as mentioned at our last meeting, we had an item on the agenda about a correspondence that we'd received from Lynn Griesemer, who's the president of the Amherst Town Council, concerning the regional school budget, and a request to all the members of the regional school committee to begin. Well, first laying out the town council's concern about the budget for the next fiscal year, and then asking for, there was a request that we begin the meetings of the 4 towns much earlier, even as early as August, because there's effectively a structural deficit in the budget. There's going to be a lot of probably painful decisions that need to be made about the regional school budget. This year was an anomaly. It was, it was a 6% increase. I think there's a recognition that that is not feasible for, certainly not for Amherst. And for our communities, that there has to be a very long look at at the regional school budget and at the increases, and the message that came forth that both AJ and I mentioned was that loud and clear that we expected that we would continue with the modified statutory method, that we were not going to revisit that. We had absolutely no interest in revisiting that. And that was understood and acknowledged by the town of Amherst. So they were very appreciative. They acknowledged that, you know, this has been initiated by the town council, but I think there's already, AJ shared an email that I think it's the financial subcommittee of the regional school committee had already been talking about initiating discussions early. So AJ, is that an accurate representation of our discussion?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the only thing to add is that I think we're all in agreement that we're going to need the region, the superintendent, and the finance director to give us a pretty clear picture, you know, using the best assumptions available as to what an FY26 budget would look like, a level services budget. And I think, you know, typically we get that information in like December, and I think we all agree that because of the unique challenges that we're gonna face this year, we need to see that information much earlier, ideally in August. So there will be lots of discussion about the regional budget, that's for sure. It's going to be, I think the schedule is going to be every other month. There will be a convening of the 4 towns to look at the budget, and that process is going to start ideally in August.
And an acknowledgement by everybody that we have a new superintendent, so somebody's kind of walking into this, and I think it was pointed out that you know, there are a number of lawsuits that the regional schools are facing. So the new superintendent has a very full plate. But you know, we're hoping that she can be brought up to speed about the budget, and that we can get the discussions underway late this summer, or, you know, by September at the latest. Okay, so I think that is a wrap for the select board. We will be meeting again in 2 weeks. And that's it, unless there's anything else, Melissa or Eric?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to adjourn the Shutesbury Selectboard meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Make me Sonia Lyon.
Stocker, aye.
Barrel, aye. Thanks, everybody, for coming this evening, and thanks for your patience, Finance Committee.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Actually, Rita, before you go,
Yeah.
I think we're supposed to take over this link now for a FinCom meeting.
We won't,
We adjourned.
we won't shut it
I mean,
down.
don't turn
That'd be
off the
great.
video.
No, I won't turn off the video. You're on there, so when I go off,
We're good.
You should be good. You're in there, right? You're.
Yep,
okay.
yes, I'm the
You're
host.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Becky, I wonder if can you hear me now?
Becky, you're mute.
Okay. Becky, for some reason, when I try to start my video, it says unable to start video. You can't start your video because the host has stopped it. Is that a
Me too.
select board option? Hang in there, FinCom. Hopefully we can sort this out. Hi, Kathy. Somehow you managed to get your video started. I don't know how you did that.
Congratulations.
She passed the first test.
All right. Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, it's not going
I'm gonna
on.
give.
Yeah, the video's not, it gave the same message.
Yeah. Wonder if we're gonna log off and log back on. Oh, boy.
Becky, if you can hear me, should we log off and then log back on? Or?
Nope, nope, you're good. Just stay where you are.
Okay.
Because you're not going through the owl anymore. I'm gonna be the only one left down here,
Okay.
so you don't need the owl.
All right. Is there an option you can change that will allow us to start our videos? Because I think most of us don't seem to be able to turn on our video.
For video? They should be able to turn their videos on.
Yeah, are you guys able to turn your video on now?
No,
No.
no.
We get a message that says you can't start your video because the host has stopped it,
Oh,
which I've never seen before.
Yeah, Melissa's figuring it out.
Okay, thanks.
go to, here.
FaceTime. Why is it on FaceTime?
Oh, no, that's not on FaceTime.
Okay,
More?
glad you didn't leave. Okay. Pause recording or stop recording. These are our
Notes. No, that's your computer.
I could give, yeah, but I don't want to.
Hand it over, make AJ the host.
Okay,
See how they're all listed as guests?
there's AJ,
Yeah, make him a host.
co-host. Okay. Do I make them all co-hosts?
No. Turn on your video now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't.
So
I
go-
can't.
But let's see.
Not me.
Not me. Not I.
So let's see, go to someone else. Listen, go to April. More.
Should I just make them
Oh,
co-host?
No, you shouldn't have to do that.
Well, I don't understand why Kathy, she was one of the first ones in. But
Well,
Deb
she
was-
was
April,
she was in ours. when we-
April, can you try your video now? See if that I just
It's
changed
still not
something.
working.
Really?
I still
Alright.
get that same thing. Maybe if we just log out, log back in.
I tried that.
Oh.
Becky, can you just start the meeting over again with the same link somehow?
Like if we click that.
Usually do.
I have a concern doing that because of the prior recording.
April, I'm gonna put you in the waiting room and then bring you back. Let's see if
Okay,
that-
And then Mick. Here's April. Still bad.
You turn it on now, April.
nope,
Huh.
not working.
That's
I think it's haunted.
That might be- Here.
Good night, Eric. Thank you.
Let's look at this.
Catch up.
This is you though. This is you.
Oh,
Mine
George
worked.
came.
I think we
Mine
got
worked.
it. I think I found it. there's under host tools, there's a start video
Oh, there you
option. I think that might have been it.
go. Okay.
All right, great. That would have been a terrible way to introduce Kathy to the FinCom, is to have just black screens for everybody except her. All right, I'm going to call the FinCom to order at 6:50. And I'm going to do a little bit of juggling of our agenda, and we're going to start by introducing our newest committee member. I'm very excited to have Kathy Salvador here with us tonight. Kathy, I think what we'll do is just maybe each FinCom member can just do a quick intro, and then if you don't mind, it'd be great to just have you introduce yourself. And I know from my conversation with Paul, I think you've got some really interesting work background that I think will be quite helpful to the FinCom, and it'd be great to have you just take a few seconds to talk about that. So my name's AJ Cashew. I've been a member of the FinCom since 2019, and have served as the committee chair for the last couple years. And I think I'll kick it off. Maybe I'll pass it to George.
Yeah, hi, Kathy. I've been living in Shutesbury since '85. I don't know how many years is that. 39, and been on the FinCom. Geez, now I think this is my 3rd year, but I had been on the FinCom a number of times in the past. And anyways, welcome.
Bob?
You're muted.
Hi, Kathy. My name's Bob Groves. I live on Pelham Hill Road, and I've been on the FinCom for this is my 9th year. So welcome aboard.
April?
Hi, Kathy. I've been involved in town politics since the early 90s as I was on the FinCom. I was 9 years on the select board, and I survived. I'm on the personnel board as well. And this is this iteration, this is my 2nd year on the FinCom. And this is a great committee. Welcome.
Susie?
Hi, Kathy. I have been on the FinCom in different parts of my life. I think this is my 4th year, 3rd or 4th year this time. And I've lived in town since 1976.
Great. And Jim?
Yes, hi Kathy. I've lived in Shutesbury since 1977. This is my 9th year on the Finance Committee, and I am also one of the 3 MLP members that runs the Shutesbury Broadband Committee.
Great. Thanks, everybody. So Kathy, anything you wanted to share with us just by way of introduction?
Well, my husband Joe and I have lived in Shutesbury, or have been here in Shutesbury since 2006. We live on Merrill Drive. When we first arrived in Shutesbury, I thought it would be a good idea, although I think I kind of got drafted into it, but I thought it would be a good idea to join the Lake Wyola Association Board of Directors, just to learn a little bit more about our neighborhood and kind of get to know who's who, and what the bylaws were all about, and just to have a general sense of what we were moving into. Since then, well, in the last couple of years, I retired from a 43-year career at Smith & Wesson in human resources. And I'll admit, and I think I admitted this to Paul Lyons, that numbers are not my strong suit necessarily, but I'm interested in learning more about Shutesbury, more about how the town operates. And I figure what better way than to dive in and learn from all of you while I participate on this committee.
Great,
So,
thank you.
That's
well,
me.
we're excited to have you. And I was trying to think about kind of what are some essential sort of bits of information to share with you just as a way to kind of introduce you to the committee. So I'll just say I'll say a couple things. One is, we tonight was a little bit of a anomaly. Typically, we meet on the sort of off week that the select board meets. So hopefully, the confusion that was the first 20 minutes of your FinCom tenure is an anomaly. That won't typically happen. And I would say, kind of during our what I'll call budget season, which is essentially like October until annual town meeting, we meet basically every other week on a Tuesday night, 6:30 p.m. I've tried really hard as chair to kind of make sure that we don't meet after like we wrap up our meetings by 8:30, because I think at the 2 hour mark it's hard to be productive. Sometimes it's we're not able to do that, but typically that we've been able to accomplish that. And I think in terms of our kind of our primary responsibilities, so one is to basically draft an annual budget for the town that is brought forth in front of the community, the citizens at annual town meeting. Ultimately, they're the decision makers, and they vote on whether to approve the budget or to make changes that they can ask for at annual town meeting and as amendments, and those amendments can be voted on. So our I think primary responsibility is to prepare an annual budget that I'll say kind of balances a number of sort of important responsibilities that we have. One is a kind of fiscal watchdog kind of function that we have to make sure that as a town we're spending money in a responsible way, to kind of look after the interests of taxpayers who obviously, we all have kind of limited resources. We operate under sort of personal budgets, and so that's certainly one of our responsibilities, is to do what we can to kind of control to keep taxes as low as they possibly can be, but balancing that with another responsibility that I think we have, which is to make sure that the services that Shutesbury citizens value and expect and want to be delivered as residents of this town are appropriately funded. So that's kind of the the challenge that we deal with, is balancing all of those competing responsibilities. So that's kind of our primary responsibility. We also have a reserve fund. Actually, it's going to come up tonight. That's that we can use to fund unusual expenses that are not budgeted, and that are unanticipated. Otherwise, if we didn't have access to a reserve fund, that the finance committee could vote on transfers to specific lines in our budget to address these like unanticipated emergency needs. If that didn't exist, it would be impossible to kind of run the town if we required a special town meeting to be convened every time one of these needs came up. So that's another responsibility that we have. We have the I guess these statutory authority to make transfers out of that reserve fund. Anybody else want to chime in on sort of like big picture, overarching kind of responsibilities of the FinCom? I'm sure there's a lot. Susie.
We communicate with the departments. That's an important part.
Yeah.
And we also keep track of what the state's up to and how those budgets are going to dovetail into ours. And then there are 3 resources I have that I think other members of the committee have. One is the Town of Shutesbury Municipal Finance Guidelines. It was a report done back in 2018. And there's the Finance Committee Handbook that's put out by the Association of Town Finance Committees. And then I also have the Division of Local Services Guide to Municipal Management for Town Officials. I think Becky might have the the Association of Town Meeting, a copy of that, and I can help make, or maybe that's where we start. What is on hand at Town Hall, and I can help get what I have.
Susie, nothing is on hand. It's all online now, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I don't have any physical manuals.
Okay.
I have a link to the handbook that you referred to. I don't know if I sent it to you all, but I can send it to you, Kathy. That's linked to the Mass Municipal Association Finance Committee kind of division, and they have a handbook that they drafted a couple years ago, which is very useful. I think you'll find it useful. I'll send you.
Yeah, Bob, if you wouldn't mind sending that link, that'd be great.
I think it's on the website.
On the FinCom webpage.
Right.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah, it is.
So it's available.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's, okay. Kathy, on the Shutesbury.org website, under committees and boards, under the active list, if you click on Finance Committee, you'll see that there are links under the guides for municipal financial management. And many of the documents that Bob and Susie just referred to are linked there.
I thought they sounded
so
familiar.
I think those would be good. Yeah, I think those would be, no, we're not going to assign you homework today, but I think those would be useful documents for you to download. And as you're kind of getting, I mean, one of the nice things about starting in July is that, relative to other times of the year for the Finance Committee, this is a bit of a quieter time. So I think as you can sort of make your way through those documents. I'll also email you our annual report from FY24, which you probably maybe have seen, in our final budget, if you were at annual town meeting. Any other sort of onboarding suggestions or resources that folks wanted to suggest? I think that's a pretty good start. Yeah. And then the other thing I'd mention is, you should feel free to, email me if you'd like to set up a time to chat and ask questions as you're making your way through those resources.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. So I think we can move on to our next item. Bob, I see your hand up. Was that from earlier? Or? Yeah. Okay. All right. And so why don't we quickly just review minutes from June 27th that Susie sent around.
So I'll move to accept the minutes from June 27th, 2024.
Second.
Okay. Did anybody have questions or suggestions on the June 27th minutes?
I just had a couple minor edits.
Okay. George, you want to?
Yeah, very minor. Under section, the regional school budget going forward, under A, the last sentence, and said the guardrails, all possible, the funding. I don't think we need the all possible funding sources, I think is.
Right.
And then in B, yeah, and then in B, third sentence, if you go works with collaboratively with other communities, I think the first with isn't needed.
Correct.
Yeah.
I know, I'm just being nitpicky.
No, that's fine.
No,
And then in C, the very last sentence, regarding main beneficiary of the fair share tax. I'm just wondering if we should make a reference to the fact that the fair share tax is new revenue. You know, something like main beneficiary of the new revenue from the fair share or something like that, Susie, because you're making reference to the fact that this new money came along and we're not getting any. And I just think that should be in the context.
Okay.
Otherwise, the minutes look great to me.
Yep. Great. All right. So I think we have a second. Anybody else have any other comments or questions? All right. So let's vote on approving the minutes as amended tonight.
Overnight side.
George?
Groves, aye.
Hemingway, aye.
Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
Stein, aye.
And Kathy, typically on these motions to approve minutes, if you didn't attend the previous, did we lose folks all of a sudden? No.
Yeah.
I'll start.
Oh, where's Kathy? Kathy's not here.
Here.
Yeah, I think she's
You know what?
rebooting.
I saw my lights flicker for a second, and I was
Yeah, there's some wicked storms coming this way.
Yeah. Did anybody else experience that? Yeah.
I'm watching
Okay.
I'm watching the radar. We've got a real humdinger headed our direction. It's
All right.
Yes. I can
All right,
see it
so
on my window.
she may have lost. She may have lost power.
Oh,
Just,
down at the lake. Everybody at the lake lost it at last week's select board meeting.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, the power here by the lake is fine.
Yeah.
Well, that's another conspiracy theory, Susie.
I think they have a weak electrical system down there.
Actually, that's not true. That's not true. We have a very good electrical system because we're part of the three-phase rewiring of Wendell and Shutesbury, and the power has been extremely reliable, much more reliable than it's been in the past. And there
Famous
was
last words, Jim.
Yeah, famous last words. I know.
Yeah, this is. I keep looking.
How amazing would it have been if he just cut out right as he finished that sentence? Yeah. All right. I'm going to wait until Kathy comes back on to do our next agenda item, which is to discuss committee assignments for the next fiscal year. I think what I'll do is just elaborate a little bit on a meeting that Rita referred to at the end of the select board there. So just to fill everybody in, kind of, I think as we've discussed at the last meeting that that Amherst drafted this letter and shared it with the region and the 4 towns. We looked at it, I think I discussed it at our last meeting. Lynn Griesmer had contacted Rita and requested and kind of an informal meeting to discuss the memo and kind of hear feedback about it. Rita pulled me into that meeting. We met yesterday. Andy Steinberg was also on that meeting, and I forget his name, Bob, maybe somebody else knows, the finance, the chair of the finance committee in Amherst. Does anybody know him? Bob?
Yeah, that's Steinberg.
No.
No. Andy is the old FinCom chair, but there's a new chair.
I know.
Anyway, I'm blanking on his name. He actually didn't speak during the meeting. So, but we heard plenty from Lynn and Andy. So I think what I'll do is just kind of summarize some of I've got a few notes here. Clearly the message from Amherst is that, a budget increase in FY26 of 6% is not going to be sustainable. Their position right now is that they're going to be challenged to fund the schools at higher than a 2.5% increase. So whether that's whether there's some flexibility there or not, that's certainly their kind of starting position. I think they've got concern. They got a new elementary school coming on board. Lynn said she did not think there was going to be any kind of appetite given other issues happening in the town for an override, and so saw that as a very unlikely strategy for FY26. He gave an update that there's, I think, very little reason to be optimistic that Amherst College is going to increase its contribution, which I think right now is $85,000 a year. I mean, it sounds unbelievable just to say that number, but I think there's some discussion that Paul Bockelman has had with Amherst College where they're talking about an increase to $100,000. So that obviously, that additional $15,000 is not gonna do anything to solve the structural deficit problem that the region's gonna have. But anyway, that's the update. So I think the points that Rita and I made were one that we're in agreement that the regional the budget is going to require we're not going to be able to fund a budget that has a similar level of increase for next year. So I think we supported that idea. We are very supportive of the effort to start a four-town budget review process in August, and for it to include every other month meetings until we have some agreement. And so I want to prepare you all for that. I think, we're going to need to, as a committee, I think, participate much earlier. And I think we all agree that would be beneficial. And I think, it helps when we can, as a committee, can sort of speak in a kind of clear message about kind of what our position, which I think has worked very well for us the last few years. Okay, what else? I did mention that for Shutesbury, we're going to need to get back on track in terms of the assessment method discussion. Interestingly, Andy Steinberg acknowledged when I said, one of the challenges with the FY25 budget process is that we really deviated in a very significant way from our modified statutory method that we had worked so hard to kind of build some consensus around. He picked up on that right away, and he was like, "Yep, that was absolutely. I saw the same thing when that budget came out." Hi, Kathy. Did you have a power outage?
Yeah, sorry, I had to reset my router.
No, it's okay. I had a light flicker, and I was like, "Oh, I bet there's a brief power outage." Anyway, good to have you back. I am just summarizing a meeting that I participated in yesterday with a couple of representatives from the Amherst Town Council about a very challenging issue we're going to face in FY26 around funding the regional school budget. You may have kind of followed this story. Last year was a really difficult year. Anyway, so I was just recapping that meeting. So I think, interestingly, Andy said, or Lynn, I think actually was that I think they would like to also get back on track with the modified statutory method. I think they view that method as being kind of fair and beneficial to their town as well. So I think we have I think we have an ally in that conversation. So, but I made clear that, we had an unfortunate set of circumstances last year, and ultimately we felt like we couldn't complicate an already pretty messy budget conversation by focusing a lot of attention and conversation on the assessment method, but that we fully expected to have that conversation and have that be part of the conversation this year. So I think they support that. I think that's about it. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Right.
Bob.
Yeah, I just wanted to try to clarify something in my own mind. When last time we talked about this, we brought the issue up that I think that the town finance committee and John Trickey said that 6% was not to be considered part of the base for FY26. And I don't know if that's still their opinion or whether this is now going to be considered the base, which would then be subject to a 2.5% increase. This is important information. Do you have any clue about that?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. And I made a point very strongly that I felt like it was a bad precedent for any one town to say that they want to use a different sort of baseline in terms of calculating guardrails or budget increases. I made the point that we've used free cash in the past as a way to supplement our funding. I think I was right about that. Like I know that we did for the elementary school this year, but I think a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken, we did utilize some free cash in part because of regional school assessment. Maybe I was wrong about that, but anyway. But I said that it just, that our position was that, the budget is the budget. It requires an assessment of each of the 4 towns, and then it's up to those towns to make the decisions that make sense for their town about how to fund their assessment. And it'd be a bad precedent for us to say, well, in terms of calculating guardrails, we want to remove this amount from our previous year's assessment. That I don't think that makes sense at all. And to be honest with you, they didn't put up like a vigorous defense of that. So I don't expect that to be.
AJ, I don't think you understood my question. I don't think I expressed it very well, I guess.
Okay.
When they added 6% to the school budget this year, they made an explicit statement saying that this should not be considered part of the base next year, that it was just a one-shot deal. And so that, for example, say the budget this year was X plus 6% from last year. The next year, the baseline would be X, not X plus 6%. So is that still their opinion, or is that now been withdrawn as a condition?
No, I think I did understand your question. And what I'm saying is that they didn't defend that. I made the case that I didn't think that was a good precedent to set for any one town to be able to say, in terms of our baseline assessment that we are now going to use from a previous fiscal year, that we're now going to use as the basis for calculating either guardrails or percentage increases, that our position was that a town should not be able to exclude a portion of the prior year's funding for the purpose of calculating the next fiscal year. So that was the point I made. They didn't, and what I'm saying is they didn't put up any kind of vigorous defense of that. It didn't, to be honest with you, they didn't talk about it.
Okay.
So really the only discussion of that particular issue was me saying that I didn't think that was
I think I understand
a good practice.
I think I understand what you said. You're saying that you consider our position to be that the budget's the budget, and that whatever happens next year is
and that
based
it's
on that. So I just was
exactly,
curious what they said.
and that a town's decision, like how a town chooses to fund its assessment, is a decision for that town, but that shouldn't have ramifications for the other 3 towns in terms of how we calculate the subsequent year's budget. The only other thing that Andy made a big deal of, and this was interesting to me, was he made a distinction between the fiscal circumstances of Amherst versus Shutesbury and Leverett, a specific one, being that Amherst does not, according to him, does not have any excess levy capacity at all. And that every year they are constrained by the 2.5% limit. And so I think we should be prepared maybe that they might come back to that issue as we're having discussions and trying to reach consensus around what's a fair assessment. They may try to distinguish themselves from our town and say, well, you have the benefit of having accumulated all of this excess levy capacity. We don't have that luxury. So George.
Yeah, a couple things. That's all interesting to me, AJ. I'm glad they didn't make an issue about the assessment method because that's not the problem. But yeah, I think, to Bob's point, we start from where we are. And if Amherst wants to adjust because they think the base is too high, they can tell us that this is how much we can spend. And it might be 10%, 2% lower than what they spent last year. So, we shouldn't overcomplicate this. For us, we know what our assessment is, and let's just see what they show. AJ, did I hear you correctly earlier? You said that Amherst in that conversation was talking about being able to go up no more than 2.5% next year?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a starting point.
They actually stated that in their letter. Yeah.
That's all right. That's a starting point. So with that, Doug in our August meeting should be able to put together the schedule that he normally does. Here's this year's assessment, and here's what it would be if we go by Amherst's guidance using our assessment method. So I hope that's the starting point, but
yeah,
I know there's a lot more to talk about.
And I think that should be the first thing that he produces is, what does a level services budget look like for FY26? And they assess Amherst at 2.5% and then, apply the modified statutory method. What kind of gap are we looking? It's going to be huge, guys. I mean, let's be
1.5.
Let's be realistic about this. It's going to be an enormous gap, and it's going to be a really difficult conversation. But we at least need to know the magnitude of that gap, right? I mean, we can't wait till like December to learn what that gap is. We need to know what it is now, so that the region can sort of plan, and we can, our towns can kind of grapple with, well, what does that mean for our interest in funding the schools at an appropriate level. George, did you have another
Yeah,
comment?
I had a follow-up question. There had been talk about, and I know initially the school board didn't like it, having a specific committee to analyze the budget and what kind of representation that would have. I wasn't sure. But then subsequently, I heard that they actually did establish, or were going to establish, a committee to do a deep dive on the budgets. Is that true?
Yeah, but it's an internal budget subcommittee. It's a subcommittee of the region that I think is being maybe run by Sarah Marshall. Yeah.
But probably, so the finance director is doing that.
Yeah, I'm right, exactly. Doug is going to work closely with that. But the idea that I think you were referring to, at least initially, of a committee that included representatives from the regional school committee and representatives from other town committees, that was voted down. So I think what we have is a subcommittee of the region.
AJ, was there any discussion whatsoever about the timing of the way that this budget will be put together? Because I personally, and I think all of us agree that the way it worked out last year was very unfortunate, but with this big change at the very end after everybody had planned out their municipal budgets. And so I think there should be some agreement from the get-go that we're going to come up to a budget by a certain time that the school committee will, and the financial people will work out. And we won't be blindsided the way we were last year. Is that something they discussed?
Yeah, and that is the logic behind starting a four-town process in August. So, one thing I think, as I think George referenced earlier, I think we can expect to get an initial, whatever crude assumptions need to be made, we should expect to get an initial picture of what a level services budget would look like and what the gap is between that and a budget that has Amherst funded at a 2.5% increase, and then the rest of the towns, however the modified statutory plays out. We should expect to have that I would think in August or September is my feeling, whatever that first meeting of the four towns is. The only other thing I wanted to mention now is that I think, we're going to have a discussion in just a minute or two about committee assignments. I think we should have at least 2 members of our committee meet with the new superintendent. I think we want to establish a good working relationship with her. And so my suggestion was going to be Susie and one other member of the committee, but obviously we can discuss that tonight, maybe after we talk about committee assignments. But if you all think that makes sense, I to me it seems like pretty important to kind of establish a good working relationship with her. Okay, so I think that's it on just an update on the regional school budget. So we should talk about committee assignments, and I think we need to do a few things tonight. One is elect a chair, a secretary, and then I think we ought to talk about our like other committee assignments. So Kathy, one of the things that maybe is a little bit different about our committee is that there are several other committees in town that I think by guidelines require representation of FinCom on them. So the Personnel Board, the Capital Planning Committee, is there any other that I'm blanking on? The School Committee. And so one of the things that we'll need to decide on tonight is who's going to be our representative on each of those committees. And then I don't think we need to discuss the liaisons tonight because I think we've got a lot of assignments to hand out, but maybe if we have time, we can do that as well. So I just wanted to say, look, I've been chairing the committee for a couple of years. I am happy to hand this responsibility off to somebody. I wanted to kind of open the door to anybody that wants to make a nomination. Maybe we'll start there for a chair of our committee for the next for fiscal year 26. Bob.
Yeah, I want to nominate you, AJ, because I think you've done a good job. I think I would not consider you to be the lesser of two evils or anything like that. I think you're good at what you do. You're competent. I really particularly like you keeping the meetings 2 hours. For that alone, you deserve to be reelected. So I would hope that you'd be willing to do it. And if you would, you are, I would support that.
Here.
Yeah, I mean, I would be willing to do it if that was the consensus of the committee. I just want to say, I mean, I'm cognizant of the fact that, we've had, I think I'm happy to see that we have a little bit better gender equity on our committee than we have had in recent years, especially with our newest member tonight. And so the committee, I don't know, I'll do what the committee wants to do. And if that's to have me do it for another year, I'm willing to do that. But I did want to sort of raise that issue that we've had a male chair of the committee for many years in a row now. I don't know how long exactly, but certainly Jim Walton, now me. And I'm not sure that's, like, I'm not sure that's a great practice. So wanted to throw that out. Becky.
You're muted.
Are you muted, Becky? Yep.
We have had at least a couple decades in the last 20, 30 years with female chairs, but it hasn't been very recently, for sure.
Right. Okay.
But there have been, and one is
Kathy. Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to say that I hope you'll continue as chair. I've listened to several of the FinCom meetings, and having had a career in HR, I've always looked to not so much figuring out what gender is going to make sense or what race is going to make sense in a particular role, but who's doing the best job. And not, at the risk of sounding like a major league suck up, I, for one, would like to see you continue at least for a year while I'm getting my feet wet.
Thanks. All right. So does anybody want to make, I want to make sure that anybody who's motivated to make a nomination has a chance to do that.
I'll make a
I will-
motion to nominate
Yeah.
AJ for the chair of the finance committee.
And I will second that. You're,
Okay, I would accept that if that's the
Yeah.
will of the committee. I'm
AJ,
I'm
you're
happy to do
really,
it for another year.
you're really good at herding cats. You're very, very good at that. I think you've really helped this
Okay, thank
committee
you.
a lot.
All right, I appreciate
AJ,
that.
you've done nothing
Thanks.
but a stellar job. You're totally professional. You understand all the issues. You articulate them perfectly. And you've got a good reputation now with the other towns. They know who the face of our committee is. And I think it's really good for us.
Appreciate that. Thank you, George. Susie.
And I think that we discussed having different people present at the information session and at the town meeting. So I think having other voices come up there is appropriate, but your leadership is the most important thing to me.
Yeah. Thanks, Susie. And I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, I think I can't remember if we made this point as part of our post-town meeting debrief, but Susie had this point, and I totally agree with her that there's too much at that point in the year around our budget information session and annual town meeting. There's not enough. We're not giving our town enough opportunities to hear from multiple members of the committee. So I think I strongly support this idea that when it comes time to do our end of year presentation and our making our comments at annual town meeting, presenting our annual report, that we should make sure this year that we find good coordinated ways to have people hear from different members of the committee. So I think we will make sure to do that this year. Okay, so I'll accept the I guess the nomination. I think we have to probably do a formal vote on this. So George,
Abernethy's aye.
you want to?
Groves, aye.
Hemingway, aye.
Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
It would be you next, Kathy, and Stein, aye. Yes, I'm still the end of the alphabet.
You moved down one.
Yeah, that's right. It's not Jim Walton anymore.
That's right.
Okay. So I think the next decision we have to make is who's going to be our secretary. And I think this is one that we open to hearing suggestions from the committee, but I think this is, like, quite frankly, a tedious responsibility that one member gets kind of stuck with every year. And so, Susie, I don't know how you feel about it, but you do a great job with it, but I don't think it's necessarily fair to just have that responsibility given to the same person year after year. So I don't know, what are your thoughts about?
I think that this is a job that we could bend gender on and have a man take the minutes. And it does take a while, but I got better at it, and I would prefer to see somebody else step forward.
All right. So I guess before we do like nominations, I'm wondering was there anybody that would be willing to volunteer to take on that responsibility for the next year?
George is already doing them for the personnel board.
Well, if I wasn't on the personnel board anymore.
Right.
Or if somebody else on the personnel board took those minutes.
Well, I really like being engaged in the finance committee. And I guess, Susan, you do a great job of being engaged and taking minutes. I guess that'll be a challenge for me. I am perfectly willing to do it. I will give it up on the personnel board, but I'm willing to do it.
Do you think that would be an option for you to give it up on the personnel board? Have they?
Yeah, I could do it on the personnel board too, but doesn't matter. I'm there, I'm writing, that's between me and the personnel board. I'm willing to do it. The only thing I will ask is, well, I don't have to ask anything. The minutes, I will try to keep them up to date during the meeting, but I will be going to the web and watching the FinCom meetings to make sure I got it right. Yeah, sure. I'll do it this year.
Great. Thanks, George.
All right, George, I really appreciate that. And I don't think we need to say this formally, but I really think we should shift this responsibility every year. I think I like the idea of there being like, this is a 1-year commitment that a member is making to really take on extra responsibility. So George, I really appreciate you.
You're welcome. I think it should be a 2-year assignment, because I think I don't know. We'll have to see. It's good. It takes a while for some.
Yeah, this meeting is being recorded, George. Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
All right.
It's on tape.
Right.
You said
it.
That's right.
Yeah, right. Let's see how you feel a year from now. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to nominate George as the committee secretary.
Second.
Is there a second? All right. George?
Aye.
Groves, aye.
Hemingway, aye.
Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
Salvador, aye.
And Stein, aye. Congratulations.
Okay.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you, George. Okay, let's think about other committee assignments. So I am willing to serve on the capital planning committee again, since I kind of know how that committee works. Bob and
I got a letter from the select board saying I was appointed to it, so I guess it's a done deal.
Is that right? You know what? I didn't get that letter, so maybe maybe they have somebody else in mind. All right, so Bob, is anybody else feeling motivated to participate on capital planning?
AJ, your letter's in the mail.
It is? All right. So does that mean that decision has been made for us? Okay.
You can.
Okay.
We can write a different letter.
George, did you raise your hand, or is that something you would be?
I've been on the personnel board for a long time, and this is my second stint on the personnel board. And I never worked in HR. I was never really wanted to be on personnel board. I mean, I know about I've been in business for a long, I worked in a corporation for a long time, and certainly saw, and I've been on the committee for a long time and certainly understand our issues. But I'd like to shake it up a little.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how to do this, but I'm happy to negotiate a trade with you if you wanted to.
Well, I think Kathy has HR experience. I mean, if she's going to be assigned to I mean, honestly, let's use the skills of the people on our committee, or align the skills to positions.
I was going to say that'd be probably the most comfortable place for me to start.
And I am
Okay.
on the
I
person.
can't believe I didn't think of this earlier, but it seems so obvious that you'd be the perfect candidate for that. So yeah, I'd like to nominate Kathy as our representative on the personnel board. And do we have to have two? Is that right?
No,
No, I am
No,
separate.
okay.
I was appointed separately
by.
Separately from FinCom. Okay, got it.
Right.
Okay.
when I was a civilian.
Right. Okay, is there a second on
Second.
that nomination? Okay. George,
Urbanite aye.
Groves, aye.
Hemingway, aye.
Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
Salvador, aye.
And Stein, aye.
Okay. Terrific.
Congratulations.
All right, so Kathy is going to be our representative on the personnel board.
So we're back at cap plan.
Capital planning. So Bob, what's your feeling? Are you motivated to despite the fact that you already got a letter? I suppose you can get out of it if you wanted.
Well, I think because of my experience with building, being a builder and knowing about machinery, I think I'm a good fit for the capital planning. So I feel that it'd be useful for me to stay there.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
So George, are you thinking to do it? Cap
Well,
plan?
I mean, if we have 2 reps, that's fine. Next year we
We
can
do
talk.
have 2 reps.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, we need to have 2 FinCom reps on the capital planning committee.
Yeah.
So if
Well, so
you're
AJ,
if you feel like that would be, I'm happy to hand off that responsibility to you. Yeah, if you're motivated to serve on capital planning, I think that'd be great.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. So I'll nominate George and Bob as our reps on the capital planning committee.
Second.
All right. Any other discussion about that? All right, we'll vote. George?
Urbanite aye.
Groves, aye.
Hemingway, aye.
Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
Salvador, aye.
Stein, aye.
All right, so Becky, do we need to communicate that change to Ellen, or I don't know, I guess not, no, because Ellen's not necessarily the chair.
The person who wrote the letters. So
Okay.
we'll communicate with Ellen too.
All right, great. And then Susie, do we have like, are you a FinCom, like official FinCom representative on the school committee?
Just
or
a
you're
liaison.
Just a liaison. Okay, got it. So
Becky, is that
Becky, I don't think there are
required?
any other.
No, but it's a long-standing practice. It's not like you join a
Right.
committee, but it's a critical relationship.
Yeah, and that was, I think, part of the liaison stuff back in the 80s.
How are you feeling, Susie, about continuing that role?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, great.
All
right,
new people.
Yeah. Is the whole school committee new?
No, not all of them, but most of them. And also new superintendents and new principal and new office central people.
Yeah. Okay.
AJ,
All right.
you're kind of a regional liaison. It's a role you've taken on.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
AJ.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't think we've actually like had somebody assign that, but yeah, I'd be happy to do that. So Susie will continue to be our liaison to the elementary school board, and I will take on the responsibility of being our liaison to the regional school committee. Okay, I don't know if we need to vote on those liaison roles. I think, anybody have a strong opinion about that?
I don't think so.
I think we're okay. Yeah. Let's see. any other, do we want to talk about any other kind of liaison type roles, or can we maybe save that to our next meeting? Bob?
I just want to say, I was assigned last year to the highway department, and I would do that again if that's what the committee would like me to do.
Yeah, I think that I would be happy to see you continue to do that. Is anybody else interested in taking on that? So I should mention to you, Kathy, that one of the things we started to do last year, I think, is we've identified a member of the FinCom that serve as a liaison between a town department and our committee. And it's really kind of an information sharing role where you kind of, that liaison sort of takes on the responsibility of communicating to a department head, hey, this is our budget review process. Can you make sure that you submit your proposed budget by such and such deadline? We would like to meet with you on this date, and just really just kind of sharing information and keeping them up to speed on what our process is.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we're getting into now. Okay, so Bob, if you're willing, sounds like you're willing to continue that role. I think Jim Walton was the fire department liaison. So maybe I'll take on that responsibility since I've given up my capital planning.
But you're going to pick
Susie?
up regional school, and I would be willing to do fire because I lost being secretary.
Okay. If you're happy to do that, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Fire department will be Susie. Who did police department last year? I'm trying to remember.
April.
Now. Is that you, April?
Yes, I was just about to volunteer to continue doing that. That's fine.
Okay. Okay, great. So April will continue to be the police department liaison. Maybe what I'll take off your plate, George, is you did this kind of liaison with the treasurer, accountant. Who else was part of that?
Finance
group?
people, yeah, the assessors, accountant, treasurer, and collector.
Okay. Right. So the finance team. So treasurer, accountant, assessor, and collector. Okay. So unless you have a burning desire to continue doing that, I can take that responsibility on, since you've just added capital planning and secretary to your.
That's fine. Yeah, I mean,
responsibilities. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay.
I don't mind doing it.
All right. I think that's everybody, right?
Yes.
I think those are. Sorry. Yeah, Jim.
Broadband committee. You didn't mention the broadband committee.
I just assumed that that would be you, since
yes,
you're the obvious,
it's a reasonable choice. Assumption. Yes.
Yes.
Fired in.
Okay, so Jim will be our liaison to the MLP, which is the committee he serves on. So that's perfect. Okay. Anything else that we need to do in terms of assignments?
I'm sorry, could you review who got what, AJ?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So capital planning reps are going to be Bob and George. Our personnel board rep is going to be Kathy. The elementary school board liaison is going to be Susie. The regional school committee liaison is going to be me. The highway department liaison is going to be Bob. Fire department liaison is going to be Susie. Police department liaison is going to be April. I'm going to be a liaison to the finance team, including the treasurer, accountant, assessor, and collector. And Jim is going to be the liaison to the MLP.
And what about George? He's being secretary. So he's not a liaison.
No, he's on our capital planning committee. He's going to be one of our two reps.
He's not a liaison to a department.
Get out of doing that.
Yeah, right. He's picked up enough new responsibilities tonight. All right. So I think that's it for committee assignments. unless anybody has any other related questions or suggestions. Okay, I think what I'll move on to now is our FY24 closeout. And I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see.
AJ, did you get my
Yep.
new one? That's not right.
Sorry,
You have
I
to,
thought this was the new one. No?
no, take that one down. We got a new one because
Okay.
I got feedback from our accountant tonight who had just finished up doing a new round of putting in some of the new bills. And
Okay.
so the very last one, do you want me to put it up or? Did you
Yeah,
find
actually, would you do that? Because I think that I thought the last one I got had that same 10,995 number, but
here? Yeah, I'm happy to share. Let's hope I get the right one too. Nope, that's something else. One second, sorry.
no problem.
Can everybody see that?
You just got to blow it up
Yes.
a little.
Oops,
What to do?
how's that?
That's good.
Yeah. All right. So I see you got the right beginning balance on the FinCom reserve fund. So that's right. Okay. So I think this includes a new item, which is the trash hauling, right? Is
It's
that
the
the main
trash
difference?
and the sanitary landfill, and the fuel was removed. For some reason, Gail hadn't gotten our last transfers, and I finally got through to her, so anyway, this is our final list for 2024 of
All right.
overages.
Okay. So these are the final kind of reconciliations for FY24. We're
Yes.
not expecting anything else. Okay, got it.
Um,
All right, so we've got
It's
5
possible
lines.
something later, AJ, but not that we know of today.
Okay,
So
got it. So we've got 5 lines that are overspent.
Yes.
All right. Bob, I see your hand up. But I guess before I take questions, Becky, did you want to give us any kind of context or info on any of these
Sure.
specific lines that?
I want to explain that the trash hauling line, the cause of this overage is this year, the fuel adjustment factor was weighing in over time and has led to being, because we pretty much have a contracted amount, but there's a fuel adjustment factor that is throughout the year. And especially in the last few months, we've gotten higher charges. So the 7,150 is the fuel adjustment factor added to the contract. The sanitary landfill, what's happening here is there were a number of months where our recycling, where we've had to pay for recycling and not just get money back for our recycling. And that's what's caused the sanitary landfill overage. And that's an estimate. Gail thinks it's about 2,800 something. So that's what she requested. The veterans program, we have a shortfall right now of $116, which is a harbinger for the fact that if things don't change, which we have a new monthly amount that will not be sustainable in our current budget. So depending whether we're wrapping that claim up or if it's going to go throughout the year, I'll be talking again about the veterans program. I'm sorry, about the veterans. Fire department training salaries. You all remember that this is an overage for the training. The department has an underage that's $2,000 in the same fire department, but it's for the call wages. And the final assessor's clerk at $5,265 is the overage that we've been accounting on because Leslie has been putting in a large amount of work that allows us to have an administrative assessor at a very much reduced rate, which a day will come very soon where I think we will be developing a contract for our administrative assessor and the fee will go up.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to open it up for questions then. Bob. Are you muted, Bob? I think, yep. Yep.
Are you well, Becky? You okay to answer a question?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you well?
Not well, but I'm gonna go get a tissue and I should be doing better right after I do that. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask her about the recycling thing and also the contract with the trash people, whether that's an accurate bill or, you know, I mean, I know, I do recall there was some kind of a rider in the contract about fuel, so it seems like a big amount of money, but she sort of answered my question previously, but I also thought we did transfer some money for fire department training salaries, didn't we? Out of reserves?
We did in March.
Yeah.
We did, and we knew that he
for training.
wanted more and that we were going to see how it worked out. So he had asked for more, but he settled for this,
Right.
and we knew it would come back. We thought it would perhaps come back.
And it was for 3 new firefighters to go to first responder class.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure it's a recurring thing. That would be my concern.
Yeah. So Becky, I was just going to ask you about the recycling issue and whether that, in your opinion, that's a fair thing for them to do, to charge us that $3,000 for the haulage fee.
All right, so it's not just it's not a hauling fee, it's a fee we have to pay to get rid of it.
Yeah, right. Well, that's what I meant. The fee when they get weighed.
Yeah. We can't control it because what happens, it's dependent on the marketplace, mostly driven by the Chinese. And if there's absolutely nowhere they can sell the recyclables, they can't sell them and we can't get revenue for them. So I think overall for the program, we've done pretty well because we had a lot, you know, we did get credit for a lot of it. But we did come up short and this all went, and we had to pay landfill prices.
George?
Yeah, I just want to raise the alarm. On the trash hauling too, with fuel prices the way they are, that's likely to be an issue going into next year, just like the sanitary landfill line, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so we got the year just started and we already got 2 lines that are a potential problem. And then one other thing I just want to point out to the committee, we're looking at $17,055.90 of expenses here, and our FinCom reserves at 18. That's going to leave us with $959 at the end of the fiscal year. And we lowered our FinCom reserve by $20,000 for the current fiscal year. So again, just something we need to be aware of as the year goes on.
Yeah, there's.
I don't see why we lowered that. Really, we got to look at that.
Sorry, there's your 958.
Yeah, I think right. There's certainly a reasonable chance that we're going to have to ask the select board, right? That's the process, Becky. If we were to run out of FinCom reserves at some point during FY26, we would have to ask the select board to do a one-time transfer. Is that what would happen?
It would have to go to town meeting.
Right.
It would? Okay.
Yeah, it has to go to town meeting. It would have to be a transfer from free, free cash or stabilization account. One or the other.
Okay. All right.
If
go ahead, George.
I was gonna say, so are we concerned that there might be another expense cropping up that needs FinCom reserve?
I don't think there is. Not, I mean, having reviewed everything, I can't see where it could be coming from. But
Because I'm just thinking, all right, that's fine. I was just thinking, you know,
out there I've missed.
yeah, for the assessor's clerk and for the fire department transfer, we could do line item transfers between lines in those departments because there's excesses in those other accounts. That would free up FinCom reserve. But if we don't think it's an issue, then
But
it's
what
a
are
moot
you
point.
using it up for? Yeah.
Then it's a moot point. Okay, that's what I just wanted to clarify.
About your last opportunity to touch free cash, and you've never done it after this meeting. Because then the books will get closed.
Okay.
Bob?
Yeah, just to follow up on what George pointed out, I think we got to look at, put something in our pocket about whether that reserve is at the right level. And if we do have a special town meeting in the fall, we could put in an article to increase it if we thought it was the prudent way to go. So I think it's something to keep in the back of our minds. I think that it's probably too low by these indications we see in front of us here.
I'm getting an alert that there's a tornado in our area.
Yeah,
Is anybody
me too.
got that?
Was
I
that
got
right?
that too.
All right. Well, fortunately, this is our last item, so I think we'll be able to adjourn and take shelter.
Run to the basement.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Just take shelter now in the
So
basement.
yeah,
So we need a vote, right?
does it say that?
Yes, please.
Yeah. All right.
And then confirm and sign.
Right. I make a motion that
All right,
we.
I'll make a motion. Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Susie.
I make a motion, we transfer $17,055.90 out of the FinCom reserve to do end of the year wrap up.
I will second that.
So, any other discussion? All right, George?
Around side.
I'm sorry.
You're muted, Bob.
Bob, aye.
Hemingway, aye.
Cash, aye.
Mosier, aye.
Salvador, I.
Stein, aye.
Okay. All right, Becky, do you need anything else from us as far as end of year
Hey, no, watch or
closeout stuff?
It said
I don't
go
know, I
in the
didn't get that
basement.
message.
was it a watch or a warning?
We need to establish the
Warning.
next meeting because there's a scheduling glitch
Yes.
issue.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, thanks for the reminder, Susie. So we got to get back on schedule with the select board.
Mm.
So they, I think, are meeting in 2 weeks.
On
Do
the
we
third,
think we can wait?
Till August 6th.
Can we wait until the 6th?
Yep.
I think
Yes.
so. All right, so we will do our next
seeing
meeting
that?
August
Yeah.
6th
Yeah.
at 6:30.
Okay.
August 6th.
Show it again. I'm sorry.
And keep us apprised of any for town meetings, and then I will also join
Yeah.
somebody with the superintendent.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, Susie, I think I'll follow up with you offline. Maybe we can set up a time to meet with her.
Yep.
That makes sense? Okay, great. All right, guys, I think I'll make a motion to adjourn
Second.
our meeting.
Cool.
Okay. George, you want to start the vote?
Aye. Arvanitis, aye.
Groves, aye.
Hemingway, aye.
Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
Salvador, I.
And Stein, aye. And it looks like that severe
Okay.
storm is over Leverett, so it is pretty close. I just saw that.
All right.
Anyway, go to the
Okay.
basement.
Okay,
Go to the basement.
All right.
Good luck.
thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
All
Good night.
right. Take care.
Leave me.
Good night, Jim.
Good night.